Good evening. Welcome to the April 22nd, 2019 meeting of the Shawnee City Council. I'd ask you please silence your electronic devices at this time. I am Mayor Michelle Disler. I will be chairing this meeting. I will do a roll call at this time. Councilmember Zimmerman.
Present.
Councilmember Neighbor.
Present.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Present.
Councilmember Kimling.
Present.
Councilmember Meyer. Present. Councilmember Larson-Bonnell.
Present.
Councilmember Sandifer.
Present.
Councilmember Constance.
Present.
Thank you. Please stand, join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. Next, I'll explain our procedures for public input. During the meeting, I'll offer the opportunity for public input. If you'd like to speak to the council at any of those times, please come forward to the microphone. I'll ask you to state your name and address for the record, then you may offer your comments. So that members of the audience can hear your comments, I would ask that you speak directly into the microphone. By policy, comments are limited to 5 minutes. No person may speak more than twice to any one agenda item. After you're finished, please sign the form on the podium to ensure we have an accurate record of your name and address. In addition, while we won't do a roll call vote on every vote, I will state council members' names who vote in minority so that our listening audience will have a clear and accurate record of the vote. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone have an item they would like to remove from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is mayor's items. I do not have anything tonight. Next item is business from the floor. Is there anyone who has comments on an issue that is not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is from the council committee meeting on April 2nd, 2019, chaired by Councilmember Meyer.
Okay, just one item. Item 1 is to consider approving the health, dental, vision, life insurance plan for plan year 2019-2020. The council committee recommended 8-0 to forward the 2019-2020 benefits renewal plan and short-term disability to the governing body for approval.
The recommended action is to consider approving the medical plans from Cigna, the dental proposal from Delta Dental of Kansas, the vision proposal from Surancy, and the short-term disability plan from Cigna, setting the city's monthly contribution rates as shown in the memo, continuing the agreement with Cigna for life and accidental death and dismemberment coverage, and continuing engaging in a relationship with Surancy Vision, UNUM, for voluntary accidental injury and critical illness benefits, and MetLife for voluntary legal insurance. Is there any discussion from the council? Mr. Jenkins?
Just a couple items. First one was we had put in place, at least I understood we put in place, a process by which we would be raising on an annual basis the contributions on the part of single employees, not the family ones or whatever, because theirs is so much lower than everybody else's. They aren't even paying a fair share in most respects. As could be easily illustrated when you look at this. Employee only is only paying 12% of the total premium. Employee plus one is paying 22% of the premium, and a family is paying 20% of the premium. So we all agreed to that. We put that into place, and somehow we're going to waive it this year. I think we just should continue with the process of adding that increment in that we were going to add in this year, and just keep moving in that direction. The other thing is, you look at the dental, and it's just kind of staggering when you look at the dental thing, where single employees pay $2 of the $38 premium, whereas a employee plus one pays in $38. That's a whole lot more for two folks than it is for one. I know, and I'm not sure what the rationale is there. And a family's up to 72% of the premiums are paid by the family, which makes some sense there. If you got a bunch of kids and stuff like that, it makes some sense. But there seems to be some discrepancy once again with the single employees, and it almost looks like we're anti-families and stuff here when you got a single person pays little or nothing, and if you have a family or you get married, wow, boy, your rates are really going to go up. So I just think we ought to take a look at that, and I am concerned that we waived that requirement this year to move it up a notch, and that concerns me a lot because that was agreed upon. I know it's nice that we got a 2% reduction in rates this year. That's great, but that shouldn't have affected the fact that we're still moving toward that goal of increasing the level of contribution by single employees to make it more of a fair and equitable distribution.
Okay.
Liz Bernard, I'm the Human Resources Director here at the city. This past year, we were very pleased when our renewal came in with a 2% decrease. The city will be saving funds that had been budgeted for that. We are not decreasing, we're not recommending to decrease employee premiums. We felt that this was a prudent thing to do this upcoming plan year to keep employee premiums as well as the city's premiums decreasing. We felt that we were making a good financial decision doing that. To address your dental question, it's a practice that the city's had for a number of years to actually charge employees a very nominal amount to help with administrative billing purposes. Many cities, it's not unusual for cities to have a very low contribution for dental premiums for their employee-only premiums.
Well, it is commonly 50% for most people, if you look at Delta Dental and so on. So that's a remarkably low amount, 2%. And you didn't really address my question, which was, why aren't we on our schedule moving forward with those incremental increases that we agreed to on this council, and which we voted on in this council, and they were just ignored this year? I got it. I even mentioned the fact that we have a 2% decrease. I acknowledge that. That does not answer that question. The question is, why aren't we implementing those incremental changes we all agreed to?
Mm-hmm. Well, I apologize for that. We prepared the proposal that we sent to the council committee with our staff recommendation in it. We did have some discussions about premiums being reduced overall and felt that allowing the employees to keep their premiums the same for the upcoming year would be a prudent thing to do, since the city was seeing a savings in the overall premiums.
Yeah, but these are not connected. These two things are not connected. And I can't seem to get that message across, that the incremental increase is an incremental increase. Whether or not the policy cost went up or down is really not important. And the fact that you're not going to increase the rates for all the employees across the board really isn't pertinent here. What the pertinent part is the percentage they're going to pay, not the percentage of a specific number, but the percentage overall, their contribution percentage.
Reggie Brown with Hayes Companies. I think the one thing the line of thinking had to do with the overall premium was going down. And so we would maintain the employee-only contribution at the same level, which in fact raised the overall percentage that the employees are paying of the overall premium. Now, it's not a significant amount by any means, but that was in effect doing something similar to raising their premim from a percentage perspective.
And we're not arguing that. I can't seem to get this message across.
Sure.
I'm saying that if we didn't want to add that, if we did not want to modify our rates based upon the decrease, that's fine. Everybody kind of got a little bit of an increase in essence that way. But that still doesn't address the question that we were looking specifically at a certain classification here, and we were going to phase in, because next year it may not be this way. And that phase in was supposed to, I think we had a 7-year phase in, if I remember right. I think it was over 7 years. And I don't know why we're not doing that. I think it's inappropriate we didn't do that, because we all agreed to it. We were going to do that. And it may not even resulted in much of an increase for them in this particular year because of the fact that the rates went down.
Yeah, that was, I think, the key there. Because the rates went down, if we can maintain that percentage split, I think it was really based on a percentage as opposed to a dollar figure.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. It's a percentage. And so that percentage should have gone to the next level percentage that it was supposed to. And if in fact they didn't get an increase, that's fine. But the percentage is there so that in subsequent years, that percentage will be the basis for what the rates will be for that year and the year following that, and so on until we achieve that level that we all agreed to that we're going to go as far as the contribution level for single employees.
So if I understand your question correctly, you're saying if a family pays, if an employee is paying 20% with a family, then a single employee should be paying like 20%?
No.
No?
Our last time we addressed this, we looked at this and said there's a discrepancy and a disparity between single employees. They really have an incredibly low rate. And we all agreed that okay, let's look at that and let's incrementally over the next 7 years, we're going to chip away at that and bring the single employees. They're not going to be in line, but they'll be at least moving in the direction of being on a par with the family plan or the single or married, just a simple couple arrangement with just two people. And for some reason, we just disregarded that, and we didn't make that step we were supposed to make in this year, and we're supposed to make another one next year, and next year. So it should, percent-wise, it should be going up. Now, whether the cost of their insurance goes up or not really isn't the pertinent point. Since we had a decrease this year, that increase in the percentage they're gonna pay may not actually result in an increased cost, which is a good deal for them in a way. They'll be able to
And I think
absorb that
that's the
extra
point.
increase.
Yeah, from a percentage perspective, it is going up slightly as a result of the decrease in premium.
I know, but it's not institutionalized, so next year, that increase isn't gonna be there if it changes. You know, if we don't get a reduction next year, that was, like, we had a great year this year, super, you know, that's fantastic. But next year, if our insurance premiums aren't going down 2%, they're going up 8%, well, they gotta buy on this year here. That level hadn't gone up that year it was supposed to, okay? And that's, I don't know why it's so hard to understand. I think it's putting out there pretty basic.
So this is because I'm new, this is the first I'm hearing about this previous decision that was made. And I would like to understand a little, I understand what you're saying about that there is a parity issue and that the decision was made to raise something, some percentage. What kind of, so what kind of specificity do we put behind that? And was this an ordinance? Was this a resolution of some kind? How did this come about?
We voted on it as part of the agreement to accept the package. When we accepted the proposal and accepted the staff's recommendations, that was one of the modifications that was made to that in terms of, all right, we're gonna accept this, we're gonna vote yes, but we want this implemented. So it was a part of that. It wasn't a separate ordinance or anything. It's like we do a lot of things here where it becomes a part of an approval process.
So I feel like
It was a contingent process.
I'm missing a step that I'm sure was addressed, and that is, how does this help people that have families? Is the assumption that if we can bring our single insured, if we can have them buy in more, that we're going to bring down the rates of the families?
That would be ideal.
And was that part of this recommended structure? Because and did we have the math to be able to support that assumption? Because
The math was provided then. I'm sorry you weren't here.
Yeah.
Okay, it was discussed and it was thoroughly fleshed out. And it was thoroughly fleshed out to the point that it was accepted by the council.
the part where there'd be decreased premiums for other people if those people paid in more.
I don't think it was
There was
meant
no-
to
there was no
decrease the
decrease
family
for the other
premium.
people.
So if it doesn't decrease what the other people are, how is this at all
It's
beneficial for
decreasing what we're paying,
families?
Lisa. Okay, we're the city and we're paying for this. And if you look at the numbers here, we're paying substantially for this. And, you know, when a single guy's paying 12% of his insurance premiums and the taxpayers in this community are paying $598 while he's paying 64, he or she, that's a pretty big discrepancy. That's a hell of a deal, any way you slice it, okay? Now, as you get into the employee plus one or the employee with a family, those numbers start getting more in line with what you'll find across broad sectors of our economy and businesses and so on. Still low. Still a very good deal compared to most other corporations or even the federal government, where I was in a position when I worked for FEMA, they were paying 33%. I was paying 33% of mine. Still a lot more than this, but still I thought I was getting a hell of a deal because I was, you know, not having to pay for all my insurance. So the bottom line is we got a really good insurance plan for our employees here. It'd be nice if it was shared a little more equitably among our employees, because right now, if you look at this is rather regressive. It really pins it on the people that are married they just married with two people, or they've got some kids. And I'm not really wanting to go there particularly because that's the majority of our workforce.
But that's not being changed by what I'm hearing is being suggested.
Not yet, because there hadn't been a realization of savings to the point that there could be a redistribution across the board, which would result in some savings. Okay, when you're only talking 1% and stuff, it's not giving a great return. But there's a situation of equity here and what's appropriate and what's fair among the people that are participating in this plan. And I'd be pretty steamed if I was one of the ones paying 22%. It's just me and my spouse. And chances are, there's two situations for you and your spouse. You can really identify it in two ways. One, they're newly married and they're just the two of them, they ain't kids yet. Or they've gotten past the point of having kids and just the two of them, they're empty nesters. Okay? Those aren't real big demands on the health system until they get to be maybe older empty nesters, at which time we've already retired them and they're on capers. So that's a disproportionate share. If you look at this thing and you try to be fair and equitable about it, it appears to me, and I'm expressing that I feel it's a disproportionate situation right now and really kind of unfair. So I would like to see the guys that are sitting over here paying 12%, and in terms of dental, they're paying 5%. And I'd like to see those numbers kind of a little more equitable.
And And I understand where you're coming from, and I certainly understand the idea that as a city, we are paying for these premiums, and it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we are expending city resources appropriately. I will say I have to disagree with the assertion that this is not normal in the industry. In fact, I find that it's quite normal for the single person's premium to be much, much lower than, as a percent, than it is for employee plus one or employee plus family. And I think that the philosophical reason behind doing that is our obligation as an employer is to take care of our employee first. So that's been my experience, is that this is pretty standard. Now, again, I wasn't here when any decisions were made, and I'm not trying to second guess those decisions, but I would like to understand what these specific amounts were and how that was then going to potentially lower premiums, or if we're not really talking about lower premiums for families, but we're really just wanting it to be cheaper. That's what I'm trying to understand.
It was a higher level for single employees. It wasn't being reflected in any cost savings or any contribution savings to the other groups, but it was at least bringing them up. So that savings would have been directly to the folks out there, the taxpayers, that these guys were contributing a little more to their own care, their own health insurance. The other one is, and it's not, I didn't see it in any of the information here, but we talked about it during the presentation during the council committee meeting, was the concept of the city absorbing the full cost of disability insurance, long-term, short-term disability. I think it was short-term at that point. And I don't really see that as being necessarily appropriate either. There's no sharing on the part of the employees to say, hey, if I get disabled, I'd like, that sounds like a good thing to me. I'm willing to pay something for that disability insurance. I mean, I put that almost in the same category as, okay, we're going to pay for your life insurance. I mean, what's the diff here, really? I mean, you can split some hairs, but it's really pretty darn similar. And so I didn't think that was appropriate as well. It's $10. Okay, you say it's not much money. And it isn't, but there's got to be some considerations on fairness and what's appropriate. What is this? What is we supposed to be paying for? How much are we supposed to be paying for? And how much is the person that's receiving the benefit supposed to contribute in kind? And I think that's not a very fair distribution. You say it's 100% here, that's it, because it's not very much money, so just waive it. I care about the taxpayers out there, and they're starting to get kind of rowdy. They're unhappy with what's going on. And I'm glad you've heard that, because I tell you what, read the Kansas City Star and see what the taxpayers said about Sly James's pre-K school thing he was trying to get together. And they hammered it, and there was a reason. They asked him why, and they said, because we're getting taxed to death. When you start getting sales taxes running between 9.6% and 11%, and plus, if you're in a CID, ow, that's starting to hurt, guys. And when you look at the distribution of what we've got in this city as far as Ward 1 through Ward 4, and my ward's got $53,000 a year per annual family income, and your ward out there's got $107,000 a year per annum family income average, that's a huge discrepancy. Well, my folks are having a hard time with this, so maybe I'm a little sensitive to the fact that they're having trouble.
So
they're struggling.
What I'm hearing
anytime we can move $5, $10 their way, great.
What I'm hearing you say is that this isn't so much a matter of equity, it is a matter of protecting taxpayer dollars. And we think that one of the ways that we can do that is by having a bigger proportionate share for really all of our employees to be able to have these benefits. Is that what you're saying?
Partially, because I didn't put it across the board, if you noticed. It was only at one group that was having very low rates. And I think I was clear about that. I did not address the fact that I wanted more contribution from employee plus one. I did not address that I wanted more from families. And you're sitting here telling me that's pretty much industry standard. I don't really think it is necessarily. I think there are places that certainly can match this, but I don't know if it's industry standard. I would like to see the numbers on that, frankly. It might be useful. But in any event, I was addressing one specific part that seems to be very low. And if you look at the dental, it's really, really low. It's, $2 out of a $38 premium. That's like, forget it, that's like nothing. I mean, how about $5? How about $7 or something to be kind? Let's get real. That's ridiculously low.
Councilmember Neighbor and then Councilmember Constance.
A couple of questions, actually three-parter. What % of our employees are single, and do you have a mean age? Okay, I forgot the second part. Oh, wait for her to get that.
I still don't know why we're leaving what was already agreed upon as an incremental increase, and that hasn't been addressed.
Oh, and while you're at I remember the second part of the question, sort of. Oh, and just to clarify is when our employees retire, they go to Capers, we no longer pay any health insurance. They're responsible for the health insurance. Is that correct?
Generally, yes. Yeah.
What's generally mean? Can you?
Well, there are some instances where that might not be the case. I'll have Liz explain.
Okay, 31% of our employee population has elected the single tier for our medical insurance, and our average age is between 40 and 45. We've got a group of
Okay.
broken down that way. And was there another question that I didn't hear?
Yeah, I think he answered it. It basically was that, once they retire, they're responsible for their own health insurance. We don't pay their health insurance. Yes, they do get Capers, but we do not assume their health care. Unless perhaps they had an ongoing injury or something to
If an
retire.
individual retires from a Capers organization after 10 years of service with that organization, they're eligible to stay on that organization's medical insurance plan until they become eligible for Medicare. The city pays 50% of the premium for the single cost. It's about just under $300 a month for those folks for up to 5 years. It's not unusual for an employee who retires here to get another job and then they don't take advantage of that benefit. But the state statute, there's a statute that requires employers to allow them the opportunity to stay on the plan.
Thank you, that's enlightening.
Councilmember Constance?
There's only a handful that have elected that are in that situation.
I guess I just wanted to clarify for the record that you actually said the percentage is going up. It's just that the total cost. So that part is unclear to me of why we are debating that. You did say the percentage goes up. We saw an overall savings. So to me, it doesn't really make sense to nickel and dime our employees who work very hard for our city. I think if we can do things that boost morale and show that we are concerned about their health and well-being and are willing to pass on a little bit of that savings to those people that work really hard, I think that in the long run, we get more out of people that are working for the people in our city. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind. I think it's actually the more prudent financial way of going about it in the long run than talking about that we need our employees to pay an additional $1 or $2 a month when, again, we are already increasing the percentage, as you said.
Any other discussion from the council?
Just one comment.
Mr. Jenkins?
In response to that, just one comment. I'd just like to remind everybody that we work for the people out there. We don't work for the city's employees. And I'd just like you to be advised of that because you seem like you're working for the city employees when you say something like that. I'm working for the people that put me here, and I'm going to do everything in my power to protect them in every way I can and their families, their livelihoods, and their ability to pay their mortgage payments, put food on the table for their kids as well. So that's where the balance comes in. And that gets pretty much out of balance if we're just going to sit here and talk about how wonderful our employees are. And I agree, we got wonderful employees, and I'm not even contesting that at all. I think they're great. I love every one of them that I've worked with. But the bottom line is, that's not your job.
Can I add one thing?
Councilmember Constance?
I absolutely know that we work for the taxpayers, and I guess that is my point in saying that we should support city staff because I think that they are more efficient and they meet the needs of those living in our community better when they're treated with respect. And so I think that's incredibly important. And I think that you can do both. I think you can be for the taxpayers and supporting the people in our community, and you can also be supporting the staff members who serve them.
Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Hey,
Motion passes with Councilmembers Kimling and Jenkins voting in dissent. Next item on the agenda is staff items. Item number 1 is to consider approving the County Assisted Road System Program for 2020 to 2024. The most recent capital improvement program was approved by the governing body on May 29th, 2018. Staff is recommending 5 projects for CARS funding through 2024. Recommended actions consider approving the program. Is there any discussion from the council? Mr. Kimling.
It seems like every year when this comes up, there's the Monticello Road, the southern part, reassuring that it's not going to happen the way it happened previously. So do we have an update on our ability to make sure that gas line gets moved?
Lawrence Snyder, city engineer. We've just been having discussions with Southern Star regarding the proximity of that gas line to where it's going. The early look through of what we've had for that gas line is that it will not be moving from where it was the last time. They're currently looking at the estimate that was done back in 2008 and getting us a new number. When we have those numbers, we'll come back and know where we're at. But that all the utilities and things that we're working towards in 2008, we've picked up right where we left off, and we're on schedule.
Mr. Jenkins.
While you're still there, I've got a question for you as well. I'm looking at the work description and 10-foot recreational trail on
Yes, sir.
Monticello. And I'm just wanting some more information on that. Is that tie into something, or is that a part of something that we want to make better? Or, I mean, just to put in a 10-foot wide piece for this one little stretch, I don't know if it's, I need some information to fill in the blanks, I guess, there.
No problem. That trail does tie into our existing bike trails for the city. And part of what we're receiving federal funding for is that bike trail. That's part of what we went in and applied for those funds with. So that part of the project needs to stay there so that we don't harm any of
It was
our
part of the
federal
bike
funding.
trail process, okay. I thought that might
Correct.
be what it was, but I really didn't see anything in the notes about that. I just want to make sure that's what it was.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from the council? Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item? I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item number 2 is to consider contract numbers 2019-033 and 2019-034 with Hydro-Klean LLC and A1 Sewer and Septic, Inc. for the 2019 Storm Sewer Video Inspection Project number 3482. On April 12, 2019, staff reviewed 2 bids, is recommending issuing 2 contracts each in the amount of $65,000. There are 2 recommended actions to consider. The first is to consider approving substantive terms of contract number 2019-033 with Hydro-Klean LLC. Is there any discussion from the council? Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item? I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Second recommended action is consider approving substantive terms of contract number 2019-034 with A1 Sewer and Septic, Inc. Is there any discussion from the council? Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item? I'll accept a
Move
motion.
to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is miscellaneous items. Item number 1 is to ratify the semi-monthly claims for April 22nd, 2019 in the amount of $2,447,420.84. Is there any discussion from the council? Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item? I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Miscellaneous council items. Does anyone on the council have an item they would like to discuss? Mr. Neighbor.
Yes, just for everybody to remember, Saturday 3 to 6, Taste of Shawnee at Shawnee 1929. Lots of good food, lots of good folks up there. And the weather looks like it's going to be okay.
Would you like to give a brief explanation of like what it is and how it works so that people know?
Okay, Shawnee 1929 is sponsored by the Rotary Club of Shawnee.
Shawnee.
Taste of Shawnee.
I don't think we can sing the whole Shawnee town.
Anyway, it is different people supply food throughout the city will come, and they have pavilions, if you will, and you buy a ticket, it's like $5, and then with that you get $10 now.
It's $10 now. $10.
No, but you can come, and these tickets, you can go to the different purveyors, and you give a ticket, and then you can get different foods from
Restaurants of Shawnee
the restaurants.
and
It's really
some of the food
convenient.
trucks.
And it is a lot of fun. Last year we had about 1,800 or something like that. And the one thing as far as Rotarians, this is our major fundraiser. And last year with all the matches and everything we did, we generated almost $90,000. So we want everybody to come. It'll be a good time, and you will have fun.
Guaranteed.
All right.
Good work, Jim.
Any other council items? Seeing none. Item number 3 is to conduct an executive session. I'll accept a motion to recess to executive session for 30 minutes for the preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property in accordance with K.S.A. 754319B6 for the purpose of protecting the confidentiality of those communications. At the conclusion of the executive session, the meeting will reconvene in the city council chambers. Do I have a motion?
Move to recess for 30 minutes for executive session.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. The next action is to conclude the executive session. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. The next action is to reconvene the meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. If there are no other items, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.